Hello, everyone. Welcome back to WP Café. This is episode number 71. We're back after a 3-week break, I think, with some holidays and some half terms in there, looking after the kids and so forth. So we had a bit of a break, but we are back with me, Mark Wilkinson, and my co-host, Keith Devon. And we have got, a good episode. Got lots to talk about this time in this episode, as we've got things to catch up on over the coming weeks. But anyway, how are you, Keith, after your 3-week break? Not that it's been like a break from work or anything, but...
Yeah, well, there was a bit of a break from work, but I had a week off, and then it was all right. The first half was good, and then my dad was staying with me for the second half, and spent the whole time in bed with the flu. So that was good. He lives in France, so I don't get to see him loads. So it was a rare visit, and it didn't really turn out as anyone had hoped. But yeah, apart from that,
good.
Yeah, just generally ticking along. Bit tired. I've been, I very mistakenly started getting back into computer gaming, and so I've had a few late nights recently. Yeah, getting.
Go on then. What are you playing?
It is Warzone that I'm playing. If I'm going to be super geeky, so it's like I don't want to say realistic, but it's like Fortnite, but kind of more grown up.
Right.
Sort of. Yeah. So I've been playing it with a few friends, and it's very geeky, and it is very good fun, and it's kept me up late. So yeah.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Good.
What about yourself?
Good.
What about yourself? By the way, I'm going to add some cafe-like sound effects by pouring my coffee.
Nice.
So while you talk, I'll just add some ambience.
Very good. I've forgotten my coffee, but never mind. I had a week in the sun, which was very, very nice. Went over to Cyprus, which was lovely for that time of year. So that was nice to get away and get some sun. I've still been recovering from my cold, which I think I'm finally off now. It's finally disappeared now off my chest. I had it for like 4 weeks. It was ridiculous. But other than that, yeah, busy with work. But I've still got a sore back. I say sore back, it's like sore.
Yeah, you've been suffering.
Bottom and leg. It's just really starting to bug me now. But hey ho, we carry on. We get through.
Has it been officially diagnosed? Like, is it definitely sciatica? Because that's what it sounds like.
I've not been to a doctor, which I will do if it doesn't improve in the next few weeks. I've been to a sports injury physioist. Physioist, is that a word? And he says it was sciatica. So you've got to go with what they say. But yeah, so I've been doing the exercises. I've been doing everything, and like it gets better, then it gets worse, and then it gets worse, then it gets better, and then it gets worse again, and it's just difficult. Yeah. Anyway, enough about my ailments. What about today's episode?
Well, that's a quick hello to a few of the people who are tuning in live. Always really nice to have some people along with us live. You can also catch this show on YouTube after it's aired, and we obviously on the podcast as well, on your podcast player of choice. So we have Exelams saying hello all. We've got Nick Wilmot, hi Nick, and Paul Turner. So if you're watching along, do say hello. It's always really nice to know that people are watching and joining us.
Join in the chat if you've got comments to make on what we're talking about as well.
Absolutely.
It's good to get some chat in there.
Yeah. Oh, there's another. Yes. Munch92. Hi there. One of our regulars. So on today's show, we have I had some topics, and then like 6.4 landed, so it feels like that's like kind of major thing to talk about. But a few of the topics, what's been going on for us, we've been doing a lot of work and thinking around geolocation stuff around our recruitment solutions. So when jobs are given a location, how do you display that location? We're using
surprisingly more difficult than you think.
It's really quite complex. Yeah, but it's been quite a fun challenge. That we'll get to it. We'll get to it. So we've got that to talk about. We maybe have a little quick chat about meetups and local meetups. I know it's a topic we always come back to because it's something we're kind of passionate about. We've got WordPress 6.4, the features, the issues, the things that maybe are missing from it that we would have liked to have seen. We've got, as part of that, we've maybe briefly talk about 2024, the new default theme. There's a plugin I really want to mention that I found through Mark Howells-Mead's tweet. It's a columns plugin for WordPress. And actually, it's kind of not quite named correctly because it's actually a grid plugin for WordPress, which is, I think, part of the confusion. But we'll talk about that. And then maybe we'll just throw a little extra thing right at the end, but I won't mention that right now. So shall we get started?
We're starting from the top of the list.
Why not? Let's talk about what we've been up to. Yeah, geolocations.
What has been going on? So, as listeners will know, we have our job relay plugin, which is sending jobs to people's sites from multi-posting solutions. And what we do is every time a job comes through our system is we geolocate the location of that job using the Google Geolocation API. I guess it's the sort of specific API that it uses. And essentially what that does is provide us with geolocation data for each job, such as latitude, longitude. And then it gets complicated because you get various different things depending on what the location is. You might get a city, you might get what they call an administrative area level 1, an administrative area level 2. You might get a country if you're lucky, etc. So you get all this data that geolocates a job. So why do we want that? Well, we want that to be able to, principally, do a location radius-based search on the website. So when someone types in a location, they select a location from the list, it has a latitude and longitude. We can then calculate the jobs that are within X number of miles of that job, of that place, and then show them that list of jobs. But we also want to show the location of the job next to the job title, for example, like this job is in London or whatever it is. And the locations that we get delivered through Job Relay from the posting providers that we're integrated with are very, very varied. Sometimes you get a city name. Sometimes you get a huge string of Greater London, London, England, United Kingdom. And sometimes you get something completely different. And that string that we get sent is what we use to geolocate the job. So we give that to Google, geolocate this string.
Yeah.
And what you get back is extremely different depending on what the string is. So we were working out yesterday. We had a client come to us and said, well, I'm getting some really random locations coming up. And what we were using is we said to our system, let's display the geo-formatted address. So Google also gives you like a formatted string back that it thinks is where your place is. So, for example, if you sent Google, London, England, United Kingdom, the geo-formatted string might come back as like London, UK, something like that, which to us is a sensible display string for a location of a job.
Yeah.
But what we found was that there were some places, and actually quite a few, not just like really outlying ones. You gave it a pretty generic place, like Nottingham, and it started to actually give you a street address with a house number as the geo-formatted address. So some of the jobs that were going on the site had like 53 Johnson Street, Nottingham, or something like that on them.
Yeah.
Completely random. So we're like, how can we deal with this? And what can we do to actually make this better? So Keith came up with an excellent suggestion, which I'll let him explain what we actually did in terms of like the groupings and what we did.
What was it? A brilliant suggestion? Well,
I thought it was because it works.
Which part of it was brilliant? Were we talking about the merge tag thing? Or
Yeah.
are we talking about further back up than that?
I think the merge tag thing that we use and the fallbacks, the idea of falling back when you don't have something.
Yeah, so it's I think it's worth just mentioning a couple of the other challenges that we've faced, so that it kind of gives the context for the decision we came to. One of the other challenges is that some of our customers are international, some are national, some are very, very hyper-local. So, for example, if you're a Folkestone recruitment company, well, you might not want to even put Folkestone. Might not want to show a location at all because all your jobs are in Folkestone, and it would just be Folkestone. But say you're the Kent recruitment agency, so that's a county for our international. So Folkestone is within Kent. So you might just want the town name, and you don't want Kent, and you don't want UK, and you don't want, because they're just not significant. So some people might want London, UK. Some people might want London, Greater London. Some people might want Folkestone, Kent. Some people might want Folkestone, UK. Folkestone, England. There's loads of different outputs that are relevant to different types of business, is what I'm trying to say.
I guess London's not a great example because pretty much everyone knows
not.
London is London.
Yeah.
Like, Birmingham would be an example because there's a Birmingham in the USA, there's a Birmingham in the UK, so that's where you might want to put comma UK at the end or comma USA at the end, depending on where it is.
And then the other challenge on top of the one that you mentioned there, where we were getting hyper-specific addresses, sometimes we were just getting really weird formatted addresses back as well. So we got one back the other day. Correct me if I'm wrong. It was Newton Abbey, which is in Northern Ireland, which is kind of rang a bell for me. Was it Newton Abbey, Northern Ireland? Or was it? Yeah. It was something like that. It was something like that. And that's what Google returned to us. And we were like, what is going on with this place? So we looked at the string that we'd passed to Google. Go, what were you going to say?
I was going to say that's not what Google returned to us. And
I can't remember what Google returned to us.
Google returned something different that wasn't appropriate, but it didn't. The issue here was Google didn't give us a town or a city.
Right.
It was a weird colloquial name it came up with.
Yeah. But it also had Northern Ireland, because that is potentially so it was all pretty weird. But yeah, so anyway, we got sent something I think quite legitimate from the posting provider. So it was like Newton Abbey, County Antrim, Northern Ireland, or something like that.
Yeah, UK.
And then when it comes back from Google, we got this really rubbish one. So we're like, why is that? So we kind of put Newton Abbey, we put the string into the Google API. Like, what is this? What is this actually returning? And right enough, the formatted address was this weird one. But when you break down the full results, it should show you, like you say, country, all these different administrative levels, which are like states and counties and et cetera, et cetera. And then you'd expect to see some kind of town or city. We weren't getting any of those, but we were getting this one called colloquial area. So it was classifying Newton Abbey as a colloquial area. It wasn't putting it even within a county. So we didn't have the city or the town. We didn't have the administrative area level 2. So we had basically like nothing to work with. So our code kind of fell back then to the geo-formatted address, which was complete rubbish. So these were the challenges that we faced.
When we actually Googled it, like just using Google Maps, Newton Abbey, it picks up Northern Ireland and around It's just north of Belfast, I think, isn't it, Newton Abbey? Mm-hmm. But it doesn't actually put a pin on the map. So
no, or it doesn't draw an area either.
Yeah, but it doesn't. There's no specific place called Newton Abbey, so that's kind of why I think it was returning stranger results, because it isn't actually a town.
But interestingly, if you put in addresses within Newton Abbey, it picked it up as a postal town, didn't it?
Yeah.
So, yeah, because Newton Abbey's kind of like, apparently, I didn't really know this, it's kind of like a weird conglomerate of other little villages and towns.
Yeah.
So if you put an address from one of them in, it picks up that Newton Abbey, it was the postal town. So really bizarre. Anyway, all this to say that you can't really rely on what Google returns you in that geo-formatted address, or you can't really rely on them to return sensible stuff elsewhere. So it's all a bit up in the air. So we thought, we need...
Just to add to that, the other reason why you can't rely on it is because sometimes you don't get a piece of data. So I think Munch92 mentions in the comments there, is the Google response at least uniform? And I suppose it is, but if you typed in, I want to geolocate Cambridgeshire, which is a county in the UK, you're not going to get a city back in that result because you haven't, it's not specific enough. So you can't rely on always having a city to display and say, hey, we'll just always display GeoCity because we might not actually have one, depending on the location that was asked for.
Yeah.
Carry on. It gets complicated.
Well, yeah, so like something seemingly quite simple turned into a bit of a mess. But we've come up with a solution, haven't we now, where we basically are using like a kind of merge tag system. So we can type in a string, comma separated and pipe separated. I can't remember which way around. So we basically say we separate like groups of places by the commas.
Correct.
So we say, for example, I want the closest thing to the town name, followed by the closest thing to the county, for example. Yeah. And to do that, we say, okay, well, the town name, we'll look for the town name first. If that's not there, pipe city, If that's not there, pipe colloquial area. And then, so it'll get one of those three based on that priority order. And then, comma, you do the same thing. So it could be, for example, administrative area level 1, pipe, administrative area level 2, pipe, country, or something like that. And so now we've got this system where we can be specific, and some clients will want, maybe they want the town, the county, and the country. Maybe they just want the town stroke city. Maybe they just want the county. Maybe they just want the country. So we've got all that flexibility built in now with fallbacks. So yeah, I think a really big win for the product.
Yeah, definitely.
And fun bit of development.
It was. I enjoyed it. It was fun, and we set a sort of default string, which is what you said, like trying to do sort of closest to the city or town name, then closest to the county. But we've made it sort of filterable so that we can change that for any client. And if a client wanted to have 3 groupings, like they always want to have city, county, country, then we can just add another comma to the end of the string and then stick another merge tag in that we can look for, and then some fallbacks as well, and it would work quite well. So it's made it really flexible for clients so that clients can have different outputs. Yeah, it's all the same in terms of the data and everything, which is quite nice. So yeah, it was good to work on that. And I've got that live in the next release, which we will release maybe today, but you don't release on Friday, do you? So maybe not.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. But and then that has also brought about a breaking change, which is the other issue we had. That was my fault because I've put some filters in for the data in the wrong places, basically. The filters include the markup output, which they shouldn't. They should just be the value that you change in, and then the markup stays the same. So I've had to change those filters, and then we've got, I think it's 2 clients that are using those filters that we know about, and they'll have a breaking change. So we need to get in touch with them first with a solution, which I've already got. It's dead simple. It's just a matter of changing the name. Anyway, all that.
Yeah.
It's geolocations and general locating jobs is a lot more complicated than you might think. But
which is why if you're thinking about building a recruitment website for a client of yours and you need someone to help you with the job board, that's why you need RecPress, isn't it, Mark?
You do. Very good.
Yeah.
Matt will be pleased about you've said that.
Yeah. We've got to raise our marketing game. Cool. So that's that. So I don't know. It's kind of fun little challenge to work on.
Cool.
Yeah.
I've got one other challenge to do as well, which is to do. So this all happens on the client site. So when the job's arrived in the client site, we're then displaying the job location on their site. We also generate social media images for them, which happens on our site, on our job relay site, and that data is available, but not available in the same format and place. So I've got to kind of do the same thing again, and then it just gets complicated because I can't generate a local image, so it's hard to test.
Yeah,
we'll get around it anyway. But that's the next challenge I've got, which I'll work on.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll figure that one out. Cool. On to WordPress 6.4. Have you had a chance to look through any of the interesting kind of new features or additions? Or
yeah, there's some. I think one of the ones that I looked at, which was more of a developer-y thing, was the block hooks API, which I thought was interesting. Can't quite think how I'd use it, except for the example that they show on the thing. So the block hooks API, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's where as a developer you can insert blocks after or before or in any other block. So you could say the example they used on the documentation page or the make blog post that they wrote about this was like you could have a block that's like a like button block, and you might want to insert that after every comment. So the comment is a block, so you could say insert this after every comment block has been added, and then you would get a little like button below it. That makes sense. You might want to insert a shopping basket button after the last navigation item block, maybe. I don't know. But I don't know. I just think that could be, because you also have to then put context into that, which it does actually support. So you can say, like, do this as the last navigation block when I'm in the header. I think it would allow you to do. But it could get quite complicated, that, and I don't know whether that would
Could.
like be fully foolproof.
But pretty powerful potentially.
Yeah, I think the powerful, that was good. There's lots of speed updates as well, which I thought was interesting. They kind of get buried in the not so sort of sexy sort of stuff that gets done, but they look really good.
And accessibility stuff on that same.
Yeah,
it's not the kind of like headline features, but lots and lots and lots of work goes into that kind of invisible stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I think in terms of the features that kind of you probably heard about, image light boxes.
Yeah,
probably useful. I think.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good default.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
There's an improved list view, which I use all the time. So, like, click the list view of blocks.
I really like this one.
You can name blocks now, like a group, so you can give it a name, so it's more easy to see which one it is. That's good.
I think that's brilliant.
And you can also see media in there as well.
I love that.
How useful they are.
I know, I like that little square thumbname of the image in the list view. I like that. I think anything that makes it a bit easier to navigate that view.
Yeah.
And use that view, because it is a very useful view. Is an improvement.
And then this one, I was a bit not surprised that it's got background images for groups, which I guess makes sense. But we have a cover block. What's
the cover block?
What's the difference between that and a cover block now? I'm not sure.
The only difference I could think of with a cover block is that it has that positioning. It has minimum height, which I don't know if group blocks do. So you can make sure that whatever the content is, you can like make sure it's at least 700 pixels tall or whatever. So there's that, which I think is different, and also you've got that kind of 9-point kind of grid.
Yeah, where you can place this focus,
where you place stuff. Yeah. So, but I don't know if potentially that stuff can all just be rolled into the group block. I don't. Cover block seems a bit redundant now.
Seems redundant. Maybe it will be eventually. I don't know, but who knows? But I guess it's fine. Good.
Yeah, and to be honest, it is a useful feature for group blocks. So, like, if you've already got a group block and you've given it a background color, and you're like, I just want this to be an image instead. No, you can. So I think that's pretty positive. Anything else? Like, there's lots of kind of like stuff around patterns. And organizing patterns and filtering patterns.
Yeah, you can create your own categories, can't you, for patterns now, which is useful, I think.
And importing and exporting patterns.
Oh, you can export. Is that part of this? I didn't realise it was part of exporting. That's good, yeah. I think patterns are going to become a bit of a problem with a lot of themes, because themes are just going to start doing like 100 patterns, and then finding a pattern that you want, I think, is going to be a problem, but we'll see. You can preview them, obviously. When you hover over, it shows you what it's going to look like. But imagine you've got 100 in a theme, which I know some themes have.
That's what the categorization's for, I guess.
Yeah. So, yeah. But yeah. We'll see. That's going to help, for sure. That's going to help.
And the whole pattern thing is good. Like, I'll come to that when we talk about the new default theme. I'll come to that. There's work around the command palette. Yay. How exciting! There's lots of other little things. There's like vertical text and stuff, and I mean, I don't know how things like that. So, like, vertical text, is that potentially a language to support other languages? It probably is, isn't it? I think it's a design feature as well, but I think it also helps pave the way for like language support that's in different writing directions. I think, there's that stuff too. But
there's any languages that are vertical, are there?
Some Chinese,
is it? Maybe, I don't know. Let me know in the comments. Is there any languages that
I think so,
down rather than left and right or right?
I think so. Anyway, of course, shows our ignorance there. So the big thing for me that's missing is font management.
Yeah, it was pulled, wasn't it?
It's nearly 2024, and I cannot add a font to my WordPress website without extra plugins and whatever. I just think that's...
It was supposed to be in, but then it was pulled out for some reason. I don't know what that reason was.
But I don't want to get too deep into it, but I don't really understand why we can get performance improvements or improvements to the command palette, which nobody uses, and not get font management, which for me is like the first thing I want to do to a theme. Like, I want to set the colors, and I want to set the font families.
Well, I'm guessing the reason is because the reason why it was pulled was a major reason. I don't know what it was, and fixing it's hard. Whereas fixing the speed improvements of the command palette is probably much easier.
Yeah, but building the command palette in the first place rather than working on this, it's just like, this is where I kind of would love to have a roadmap. Like, what other priorities? Like, anyway. Yeah. That would be cool. I really hope that comes very soon, because I think that, like, all the other platforms do it, and I've done it for years. Yeah. So
you can do it with the block creation plugin or something. I can't know what it's called now. Create block plugin. Or create block theme plugin.
That's it.
You can do it with that, which I think is where they were trying to sort of bring that into the core. And anyway, it didn't work. But I'm sure it'll come eventually. Yeah,
I hope so. Well, it will. It kind of has to. And then there was the new default theme. So 2024 was packaged up with it. And I don't really know what to think about 2024. I really think it looks nice. I really like minimal design. There's some nice typography. There's some nice spacing. There's some nice kind of color palette styles. They've got cool style variations, so you can switch to a kind of darker mode, which looks really cool. And this, I think, this raises the question of what is a default theme meant to do. I would, maybe this isn't the place for a default theme, but I would really love to see a default theme that maybe just excites me slightly more, and I just think, wow, I didn't know you could do that with the block editor. I just see it now, I'm like, yep, that's just a standard page with media text blocks and centered text here and a bit of padding there and a background color there. And like, the navigation is horrific. Like, the header is really on the example. It's really poor with that little drop down and it just looks really old school and just no. So,
but then the counter argument to that is that, like, what is a theme? Like, you're saying, like, it would be good to see, like, oh, I didn't know you could do that with the block editor, but then that's not the theme. That's the block editor.
Well, those lines are very much blurred, but like what themes are doing now is really like building patterns. So themes are set for, I think, are mainly a collection of styles and patterns. So styles being the typography and the color schemes and the collections of those things, and then patterns, which is putting the blocks together in an attractive way. So I think those, I just feel like the boundaries could be pushed a little bit harder in the pattern side of things, just to be like, oh wow, yeah, that's a really creative use of that particular block and that combination of blocks. I remember Jamie Marsland, Poodle Press, did a really cool video. I don't know if we mentioned it. Like, we definitely shared it between each other. And it was just like loads of creative ways to use the block editor. And like some of them were, okay, yeah, I mean, that looks totally garbage on mobile, or you wouldn't. But there were a few, it's like, oh, I'd never thought of using the block in that way. I've never thought of like using like gradients in that way so that it creates a separation and it does this and that. And
I watched one yesterday, the day before, for Brian Gardner on the WP Engine build mode YouTube channel, and it was creating like a percentage completion bars for things. It was just using columns, and it's like, I mean, it's actually quite straightforward, but it's quite cool, like you can do it. But again, that's not the theme. Any theme can do that with that blocks. So I don't, like, what's the theme?
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah. So I was a bit underwhelmed. I think I always want to see like the newest capabilities and like what WordPress is capable of. With these theme releases, but it's very nice, and the patterns that they've included look very attractive. And there's a few things I saw in there I thought, oh yeah, that's cool the way they've done that. So yeah, a few little bits and pieces.
Mark has just corrected us. Chinese, Vietnamese, Korean, and Japanese are all written vertically. So
there you go.
I apologise for not knowing that.
Yeah.
Anyway, there we go. Thank you for that, Mark. next up, a plugin that you
Yeah.
have found, and I've seen. You've probably seen this plugin. It's been doing the rounds on Twitter. Something that's new and quite cool. It's the WP Columns or Advanced Columns plugin.
Yeah. What's the web address?
Advancedcolumns.com.
There you go.
And I have to confess, I wasn't really sure what it did, if I'm honest, having looked at the website and read the page and looked at the videos, which has got some nice little videos on there. I still wasn't quite sure what it does. And I think that's because I don't understand CSS very well. Keith was like, oh my God, that's amazing. I can do this and I can do that and I can do this. And I was like, oh, I didn't realize we couldn't do that without this plugin. So I don't know. Anyway, I'll let you talk about it because I don't really know an awful lot about what.
Well, basically, columns. The way columns are currently built in WordPress is Flexbox. So when you add a columns block, you're adding a Flexbox container, and each column within it is a Flex item. And that's how columns are built. So you need to build columns in rows. So that's one kind of distinction. So every row is a separate columns block. Whenever you're so if you have a grid of 6, so 3 by 2, that's 2 columns blocks of 3 columns each, right?
Which doesn't work on mobile, and does it? Because
there's problems with
a bit weird. Yeah,
that's part of it.
Right, yep.
So that's Flexbox. So that's how we use Flexbox to create columns and grids in WordPress core. This plugin actually uses CSS Grid, so it's kind of like, I wish they'd called it like advancedgrids.com or like WordPress grids or something, because that's what it actually is, and that's why it's so powerful. So with CSS Grid, you can define a whole grid of columns and rows, and you can place the children of that grid on any kind of combination of squares or rectangles within that grid framework. So you can be much, much more creative in terms of your layout. It was like, I tried to demo it to you earlier, and I was like, I was creating all these layouts. You're just like, can you not just do that by creating 2 columns here? And I was like, oh God. So I had to like redo it like 3 times to try to come up with something that you couldn't easily achieve. But trust me, it's much better. And the other thing is that at different breakpoints, then you're not just always stuck with these kind of set column layouts. Like at different breakpoints, you can completely change the grid. So, so
instead of having a 12 by 3 grid, you can have a 6 by 2 grid.
Yeah,
and then place all the items on there differently as well.
Exactly. Right. Yeah, so you can create completely almost like unique layouts per breakpoint. So it's potentially really powerful. I did find the plugin slightly difficult to use when it came to breakpoints. So I don't know if there's stuff coming. I think it's fairly new. The pro version isn't even launched yet, but you can get the free version. But yeah, I'd encourage people to have a look at it. If nothing else, it actually does columns properly, like better than the Flexbox version, if you just want to use it for that. But yeah, I really liked it.
I was confused, I think, because I was hooked on the name. So it's called Advanced Columns at advancedcolumns.com. So immediately in my mind, I think this is something to do with columns in WordPress. But when you actually read the title of the page and the tagline, the professional solution for layout management in WordPress, that makes more sense to me now, because we can actually lay out blocks with CSS Grid. That's essentially what it's doing. And then it says, built on the CSS Grid foundation, Advanced Columns is the most powerful, flexible layout builder for WordPress, block builder for WordPress. Yeah. That makes more sense than the name of the product, Advanced Columns, to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wasn't sure about what CSS Grid and Flexbox is, because obviously I don't do much CSS at all. I don't really understand those things and so forth. So
yeah, I think we should mention these guys in the tweet and say that we talked about it, because some of that feedback might be interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
Just around like, trying to explain to people what this actually is and why it's so cool. But I'm a big fan.
The website is lovely as well. I love the design of it.
I love the
Slightly
colours.
Disappointingly, it's not even WordPress and doesn't use the Advanced Columns plugin. I don't think it does anyway. So
I'm pretty sure it doesn't.
But
I don't
that
think
was
that's a
slightly
WordPress website.
disappointing.
Yeah,
Which I just found a little bit ironic. But there you go.
Yes. But yeah, that was pretty cool. So check that out. Grab the free version and have a play. I really liked it. I think we've gone really long today. I knew we had a lot to talk about, so I don't want to go too much further.
We've got some comments.
Oh yeah, let's go through some
so
comments.
Peter, this is back on the default theme. Peter says, as far as the default theme, I would prefer a robust blank-based theme and then a clean process for bringing in patterns and styles. So more of a blank canvas maybe to start with?
That's an interesting one. I don't think I agree. No, Peter can want what he wants. Like, I don't disagree. Yeah, that's what he wants. But for me, I think the default theme, I kind of see it as a lot of people's first introduction to WordPress.
Yeah.
And what it looks like and what it's capable of. And I think if you just give them a blank slate, they'll be like, "Oh, WordPress is a bit crap."
That's a bit disappointing. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, something's like, "Oh, that's nice." You know, like.
Yeah. Oh, I can do this with WordPress, right? Yeah. I for me, I just think because as a developer, I know where to go and get blank themes, and I can create my own. But as a first time user, who are the people who are presumably using this theme the most, I think that maybe they want something a bit more. But then the argument is that you want to make it as generic as possible so as many people as possible can use it. I get that too. So, yeah, it's a tricky one.
It's a difficult one, that, isn't it? Yeah, because I installed the Ollie theme and I was having a look at that the other day. And, like, you install it and you go through the little setup wizard that it has, which is nice. And you look at your website and like, wow, that's pretty cool, you know. Whereas doing this with that theme, it's like, it's just a bit... And I get it. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying it swings and roundabouts. Everyone will have their opinion, no doubt. Munch92, thank you. The irony that the block editor was meant to allow you to be more creative and we're needing a plugin to use CSS Grid. I wonder why they didn't do this in the block editor. I wonder why. Flex, why there isn't a block that's like a grid block, or I don't know.
I think because so having fairly recently used Squarespace, this is very Squarespacey.
Right.
So in terms of the UI for it, is you can kind of see the underlying grid, and you drag, like, you create grid areas, and then you put things into those grid areas. That's what Squarespace does really well, and it works really well in Squarespace. And I think that WordPress would do very well to talk to these guys and buy it, or I don't know how it works. How does it work in the kind of .org world? Because so they've come along and built this amazing plugin to really enhance WordPress, right? Someone, hopefully Matt Mullenweg, will look at that plugin and think, "Oh, they've nailed this." Maybe they haven't nailed it yet, but eventually they'll be like, "They've really nailed this. This is a really beautiful way to build layouts in WordPress. We need this in core." What happens next? Because who?
Well, it's open source, so presumably you can just borrow it.
Which is just doesn't feel right, does it? Like, I kind of want the people that build stuff like this and innovate in this way and put in that much effort to be rewarded for it, not to be eventually put out of business because their great ideas taken. I don't really want WP Engine to buy it, but I kind of do. Just for the founders' sake.
I'm sure if it's an excellent plugin, they'll sell a few. And hopefully they'll sell a load to start with. If it goes in afterwards, and then they'll make some money for it. Because they deserve to if it's good, definitely.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
I can't see this like going into core tomorrow or next week or next month.
Yeah, it won't. Yeah, but I just want people to be rewarded for the effort and innovation, basically.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyway. Yeah.
Right. Last point, quick, because we've had a long.
Yeah. The only other thing is that I had a discussion with some WordPress friends of mine earlier today about this show and about whether we should get some guests on again and potentially not do it in an interview format, but do it in a kind of co-host format. So maybe have 3 or 4 of us all sharing our insights. Maybe those 3 or 4 people change on a weekly basis or kind of rotate slightly. Maybe the 2 of us are the constants and the other 2 guests chop and change, but we have some kind of regularity, so we build up a little bit of rapport and a bit of
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just an idea. I just kind of wanted to kind of put that out there to our listeners and viewers and say that kind of thing might be coming. If you have any kind of feedback on that, it'd be really interesting. If you want to be on the show, that would be interesting.
That's key, I think, feedback, because we started this show, episode 1, back, oh God, when was it? I don't know when it was now. It was a while ago. And we did it monthly for a while with guests, and it was more of an interview style. So we had a topic, and then guests came on, we asked questions and got discussion, etc. That became, I think there's 2 reasons. It became really hard to do, time consuming, and I don't actually think we were very good at it.
Yeah, I agree.
So we moved away from that and just thought, because there's the number of times where me and Keith would be on a video call chatting about something, and we just said, why don't we just record this? This would have been a great episode of WP Cafe, just discussing the things that we do.
That's what happened to me this morning. I was chatting to these 2 guys, and we had just such a brilliant conversation. Yeah. I was just like, oh, I wish we'd recorded this. But
so I think that's what we went with now. It's really these episodes are quick to do. It's 20 minutes of planning what we're going to talk about, and then we just press record and start talking. We don't edit it. Keith doesn't edit the podcast. It's just literally download the audio, stick it up there. There's nothing. Yeah. Stick it up on the website for the RSS feed to do the job. So I think we want to continue with that format so that it's just a casual chat rather than a pre-planned interview style. It's just whether other guests you think you'd like to listen to, other guests and other people. We'd love to know. So we can make it the best it can be, I guess.
Leave a comment, send a tweet, email us your thoughts, and if you'd be interested in jumping on. But yeah, let's. I think we might experiment with that and see how it goes.
Yep. Cool. Right. We'll wrap it up there. If you, as always, if you're not subscribed, please subscribe, like the video, ring the bell, get the notifications for the next episode, which should be. In fact, I'm just checking because there was one Friday where we need to move it. It's not next week though, so we should be back on next week at the same time. And yeah, thank you very much for watching and joining us, and we will see you in the next one.
See you soon. Thanks, everyone.